If, like me, you've recently seen the new Chainsaw Man movie, and maybe even watched the anthology series 17 to 26, then you're probably feeling a little...
Yeehaw, motherfuckers!
Maybe, like me, it's giving you the brainworms. In this video I'm going to bombard you with 2 little essays about the Reze movie, and one about Fujimoto in general. We're going to cover shipping, sadness, and identity. Spoilers for the movie, Fire Punch, and Woke Up as a Girl Syndrome are on the menu today. Enjoy! One of the smaller aspects of the Reze arc is Aki's subplot that, in the fandom, launched possibly one of the most popular yaoi ships, Aki Angel. Now, to be upfront, I'm not a shooter for this ship. When I first saw it, I got the aesthetic appeal, but saw it as nothing more than these two share a number of scenes together, so let's ship them, which is fine and cool. Let the fans have their fun. When the film adaptation of Reze's arc came out, some discourse came about over this pairing, arguing that a major scene that launched this ship was fans of the pair just being delusional, and that rubbed me up the wrong way. In this essay I'm going to look at this pairing from an outsider's point of view and argue why I think it's not only a fair reading of the scene, but why the Aki and Angel pairing is more thematically valid than I had previously given it credit for. Now, to properly talk about this sexy man-on-man romance, I naturally have to talk about a heterosexual pairing first. The first half of Chainsaw Man gives us Himeno, her one-sided attraction to Aki, and, to a lesser degree, Aki's infatuation with Makima. Aki and Makima's relationship is near entirely a product of her mind control, so you can pretty much ignore it for analysis. Safe to say, it's the roadblock stopping Himeno from making her move. After losing several buddies,
You and he were buddies, weren't you?
Once.
she has fallen into despondency until she meets Aki. Upon seeing yet another kid ready to throw his life away, Himeno decides to show him there's more to life. Originally I saw this push to take up smoking as an act of fatalism, a "we're going to die anyway, so why not" mentality. And while I think there's something to that, we can't ignore her argument that it's something to bond over. She gets Aki to take up smoking, go drinking, and generally fuck around to show him there's more to life than just revenge. It works as well because despite saying how killing the gun devil is all he cares about, Aki readily risks his life to save Denji when dealing with the Eternity Devil. I'm no scientist, but I can tell you that dying is a solid way to never achieve your goals. Himeno would clearly still prefer they just up and leave public safety altogether to stop pursuing revenge, but in the meantime she's going to try and help Aki see beyond that. The long and short is Himeno's relationship with Aki is one of showing him that revenge, ultimately a shorthand for throwing your life away, is giving up and missing out on the little joys of the world. This is the important part to take away. Immediately after Himeno's death, Aki is asked if he'll quit public safety and take what life he has, or stay and make a greater sacrifice in pursuit of revenge. At this point, Aki chooses to make more sacrifices. Aki does not value his life beyond what time it gives him to get revenge. Around this time we are introduced to the Angel Devil, supposedly friendly towards humans, but will sap one's lifespan if physical contact is made. Aki is told to work with him because while lazy, Angel is also incredibly powerful and will be of great use to Aki. Despite this, Angel's immense laziness, often thinking that death would be better than doing the work he's tasked with, and his stated belief that humans should suffer in death, make working together nigh impossible.
I can't even pretend to get along with you.
Despite these differences, the two work together and strike up enough of a rapport that they can have what is possibly the most important conversation of the arc, the country mouse and the city mouse question. Reze asks Denji which he would rather be.
Say, Denji, I was wondering, would you rather be the country mouse or the city mouse?
Why a mouse?
We then immediately cut to Angel posing the question to Aki, explaining it, and Angel saying he'd rather be the country mouse, living in safety but has been forced into the city. He calls Aki a city mouse, and Aki's reply is cut off, though he seems to be objecting in some way.
I don't want to follow a city mouse like you and put myself in danger.
Whatever.
I would bet money that Aki sees himself as a country mouse also forced into the city to seek revenge, while Angel sees him as enjoying this act of self-destruction. If it pleases the court, I would like to present this moment as when Aki shift position on Angel, from a lazy devil to a person who is stuck in a situation against their will. The next time we see them is Angel asking why Aki hasn't told anyone about his impending death. Of note here is the look Aki gives Angel, as Angel says as long as he's alive he has to work and he'll only be free in death. What is this look? Pity? Surprise? Disdain? I can't say, but it's clearly got Aki thinking. At this point in the story, things start to pop off. Aki and Angel are temporarily separated until chapter 50, Sharknado, where we get the big moment for these two. As a tornado rips around them, and explosions tear up their surroundings, Angel is blown off his feet and about to meet his demise. Aki grabs his shirt and holds on to Angel, who begs to be let go. A pained look crosses Aki's face as we get a single panel flashback of Angel's past. A person he killed, perhaps? Suddenly Aki has Angel by the hand and pulls him in, costing him a few months of his already greatly shortened life. He tells Angel he's sick of seeing people die in front of him, and to do so somewhere far away if he must.
If you wanna die, then go ahead. Just do it somewhere far away. I'm sick and tired of people dying on me, right before my eyes.
There's a lot here even if we don't have our Yowie goggles on. Aki is giving up his life to help someone while reducing his chances of getting revenge on the Gun Devil. We have him now discouraging Angel's fatalism, and we see Angel having a moment of understanding, pity, sympathy. Something crosses his mind here. Now let's talk romance. First of all, this is just very romantic, right? A hero gives up something at great personal cost to save someone who is trying to say they aren't worth saving. The grabbing of the hand is intimate and personal, the embrace is sad yet comforting. Shit's gorgeous. But, I hear you say, I could have done this for anyone. Maybe, hypothetical person, but he didn't. Let's look at this as a piece of fiction. Fujimoto could have had Aki save anyone. There are several characters on the scene, but he picked Angel because, as we have seen, he's building something here. Specifically, I'd argue he's having Aki take the role Himeno played when she was around. He is now in his own way showing Angel that there's a reason to live. Part 1 of this series is about the importance others have on making us complete people. Denji had Aki in power, and here we're seeing Himeno's effect on Aki, leading to an effect on Angel. In a similar vein, he could have had Aki grab Angel by the ankle or the wing. The effect would be the same, but he picked the hand. These are not accidental choices. Even if he's not trying to build a subtle little gay romance, there is imagery here that is intentionally classically romantic, and I'm just going to say, I don't think Fujimoto is unaware of what he's doing here. In almost any other story where a hero saves someone of the opposite sex as a big climactic moment, it's seen as romantic. Why should it change just because the characters are of the same sex? We've had Himeno give up her life to save Aki, and we know she had feelings for him. Now we have a similar sacrifice, albeit to a less degree, with Aki and Angel. Were Angel female, I don't think anyone would question this moment as being romantic. As someone who was originally indifferent to the ship and saw it as merely, they shared screen time, let's pair them up, I'm now fully on board with this ship having legs. Or sails? It just works. To cap things off, we have Angel's moment helping Makima. He was told to bring Aki but didn't, knowing how upsetting it would be. He's gone from indifferent to being needlessly considerate of Aki's feelings.
You're too kind.
Well, I am an angel.
Angel has entirely flipped his self-perspective thanks to Aki, and is now wondering if the risk is worth it.
Hey, is the city a good place?
By asking if the city is a good place, he is asking if following Aki is the right thing to do. Whether we see these two as a romantic pairing of two doomed pretty boys now in it together, we are undeniably being treated to a beautiful and understated duo, and one that is heavily informed by a previous duo. One in which Aki was the person to be saved at great personal cost, to one where Aki is saving someone at great personal cost. Towards the finale of her arc, both Reze and Denji ask why she didn't kill him the second she saw him. The cryptic answer we get from Reze is this: In this part, I'm going to fill out this answer, discuss how it leads to events unfolding as they do, and explain why, to me, Denji is the mirror that reflected Reze's prison bars. The initial answer to why she didn't immediately strike can be mostly explained thusly. Reze and Denji are in almost identical situations, abused and exploited teenagers being used as living weapons to realise the goals of those in power with no consideration for their own well-being. If I was a bizarre anomaly that had a chance to meet someone in a near-identical situation, I would probably take that opportunity. In a story already loaded with mouse and cat metaphors, let's throw in another. Curiosity killed the cat. The first meeting at the cafe was almost certainly just the cat playing with the mouse before going in for the kill. Reze's seduction is honestly kind of awkward and suitably juvenile, which is in character for her cover, but it's almost daring Denji to be suspicious. That said, when she says he is the most interesting person she's met after only 20 minutes of talking to him, that's not entirely a lie. He's a rare chance to see herself from the outside. She knows who he really is and can already see he's not very worldly, having never even tried coffee before. This is her first glimpse of the mirror that is Denji, and the start of her fall into the depth of love and loss. I think it's only natural that upon seeing someone so much like yourself but lacking in something that you can provide, that you would do so. For Reze and Denji, this is a bit of worldly experience. Sure, even for Reze, this is really all theoretical, but she can still provide the means for them to both experience something new. When the two go for their nighttime exploration of the school, the full reflection is shown to Reze. Where she might have thought Denji was a lazy student playing up his lack of reading skills as a cover story, she now sees that, like her, he was denied a chance to live, and worse still, he's happy with his situation. Despite later saying he would like to be the city mouse, right now he is definitely the country mouse, content with his mundane lot in life, unaware of how much the city has to offer. As is usual for Fujimoto, he loved to play with self-perception versus external perception. Denji sees himself as the city mouse, and Reze sees herself as the country mouse. Yet Denji is the one being shown what he's missing out on by Reze. This actually shows up again with Aki and how Angel perceives him compared to how he sees himself. This is where a key difference between Denji and Reze can be seen. Denji has no idea what normalcy is. Denji is so acclimatized to his previous suffering that he doesn't really appreciate how unremarkable his life of 3 square meals, a bed, and a roof over his head actually is. Reze may not be in a better situation than him in reality, but she certainly knows how basic these standards of living are. She might not have experienced much herself, but she knows that kids usually go to school and aren't asked to risk their lives for a government agency. Very often, victims of abuse don't realise just how bad their situation is because it's so normalised for them, yet when they see the same abuse happening to others, they still understand that it's wrong. Reze is going through this. She's in the exact same situation as Denji, but only shows concern for him. At this point, she's likely not even thinking of herself and how messed up her own situation is. At least until... Having shared a genuine moment of joy, vulnerability and intimacy with Denji, Reze goes to the bathroom, only to be ambushed by an assassin. At this point, Reze must drop the facade she's put up and become the ruthless killer she was trained from childhood to be. This is why we get that iconic glare. Reze has realised there is a life she could be living, a life perhaps with Denji where she can be a normal girl with a normal boyfriend, going to school and living a normal life. Yet now she is confronted with a threat that demands she return, however briefly, to reality. The prison bars are clear for her to see at this moment. She is a weapon, not a scared little girl, and living that life would be one long game of pretend. The movie was genius to give us this look of rage and hate and disgust as this wannabe Travis Bickle snaps her out of her dreams. She does what she has been trained to do. As she chokes a man to death, she sings of a simpler life. I think this is where realization hits her. She has shown Denji how to swim. She said that she can teach him everything, but now she is forced to realize that she is in the same cage as him. An impossible choice must be made, but she can't be the one to decide. At the festival, under fireworks, Reze offers Denji his freedom, but has misunderstood one key aspect. Denji still doesn't see the bars of the cage. He might have understood his current living arrangement is the basic minimum, but he's been denied everything for so long that a slowly developing family and a mediocre job is near impossible to give up. He is even aware that as of now, power is still difficult, Aki is only just coming around, and his job still restricts him, but it's the best he's had, and as far as he knows, it's the best he can expect. Then there's his crush on Makima he's clearly avoiding addressing. Denji's cage has nice wallpaper, so he's fine, while Reze's has been stripped down to the raw iron bars, so she lashes out. Along with the indirect personal rejection of her feelings for him, Denji has essentially rejected her desire for an actual normal life, and some semblance of freedom. She had looked at Denji and seen a boy who needed to be shown the wider world. Now she looks at Denji and sees the hold his nascent family has on him, and she sees the life she cannot have. When the mirror reflects something ugly, one way to deal with that is to smash it. Reze has been blind to the awfulness of his situation, and when she saw it reflected in Denji, she saw her own prison and wanted to break them both out. When Denji rejects that for the perceived comfort the prison gives him, the fight becomes tragically inevitable. Reze can no longer return to her old life, but seemingly cannot have her new life. Here comes the second reflection in the mirror. Let's talk about the nightmare that is Bomb Girl. When civilian devil hunters roll up to kill her, she explodes them without hesitation. Maybe a hint of contempt, but nothing truly mean. That changes when she clashes with public safety. She mocks them with her hilariously low-effort damsel in distress act. She terrorizes and belittles them. She steals their underwear. The cruelty she inflicts on public safety is straight out of a horror movie, but when we remember her situation, maybe we can see a victim fighting back against an abuser on behalf of another. Maybe we see her taking out her rage at being denied her humanity on a placeholder for her own oppressors. Denji has to suffer as well though, because here's the Reze who complies and obeys and enables. This is unfair, they're both victims. Reze just has the advantage of perspective and self-worth, but is also seeing her whole life go up in shreds. She's clearly decided to go rogue and is angry and upset that Denji has essentially said she's going alone. When everything is over and Denji now accepts her off on the beach, it makes sense that she momentarily rejects him. If it said that under the fireworks so much pain could have been avoided, their escape so much more plausible. Now they're two devils who tore up a city block and have the world's eyes rapidly focusing on them. The tragedy of Reze is that in Denji she saw herself and saw the prison that held them both. She saw a boy she could save herself through and a tiny ray of light that offered a normal life. What she didn't see was that Denji had been through so much and kept so ignorant of life that he never understood that he was a prisoner all along. She was the spider, unaware of the poison that flowed through the butterfly. Fujimoto has a fascination with the relationship between the three different states of identity. For those unfamiliar, whenever two people meet, there are really 6 people present. There is each man as he sees himself, each man as the other person sees him, and each man as he really is. To make this clear, let's look at Power as a random example. She sees herself as an all-powerful blood devil, others see her as a nightmare gremlin lady, and the reality in universe is that she's an egotist who's kind of lonely and seeking friendship. Now I'm sure some of you are already disagreeing with this example, but I think you get the point. Certainly Fujimoto does. At least 3 times he explores this explicitly. In Fire Punch, this is a core theme. From Judah having to play the role of the prophet of God, Doma being seen as a horrible murderer by Agni, but now being a sad and guilt-ridden old man, and Agni himself being seen as a god or a monster, while seeing himself as a confused kid who never really matured past 15. And then we have him.
Here comes the boy.
Togata. Togata, my beloved. Almost certainly the most popular character from Fire Punch and maybe even one of the top contenders for all-time Fujimoto characters. The world sees Togata as an eccentric and dangerous woman, while Togata sees himself as a creative man burdened with a body that denies him that perception from others. When it comes to the big moment in Fire Punch that Togata is outed as a trans man, it is not because he's been presenting as male and being outed as having been born in a female body. It is that a goddamn psychic has looked into his head and seen that despite having the body of a woman, Togata is a man. Even in this cruel, forced outing against his wishes, Fujimoto never for a second invalidates Togata's maleness. From here, almost entirely out of the blue, Fujimoto gives us one of the best conversations about perception and identity. He compares Agni's situation, a child in the body of a god, to Togata and how their external presentation forces them both into roles that are detrimental to them and lumps them with expectations that they cannot meet. Ultimately it ends with Togata acknowledging that despite his looks, Agni is just an earnest child and accepting that he himself will be seen as a big sister. Given the pained expression we get, I think Fujimoto is asking us to consider the distress Togata endures in being misunderstood, and it feels like we're asked later to equate this to the constant pain Agni is feeling while being on fire. Woke Up as a Girl was released just as Togata exited from Fire Punch, and once more explores presentation and identity, once more, curiously, from the perspective of a trans-mask experience. Well, mostly. When our awoken boy goes to school, we get some of the trans femme experience, from the cis girls saying he's a pervert trying to get attention from the boys, to the boys asking him if they can use him for sex in exchange for no longer bullying him. I don't think it's hard to see the transphobic hate and fetishization going on here. A guy they are now being told to treat as a girl is seen as either a predator or as an object of sexual gratification only. This is basic trans misogyny. The wider experience of our hero, though, is generally more read as analogous to that of a trans man. A kid growing up, seeing themselves as masculine, one day wakes up to be confronted with a body that is more feminine. Despite everything they understand themselves to be, want to be, their body has overruled them, and now society is listening to that and not what the poor boy wants. He himself is confused. He liked this girl, but now has confused feelings towards her brother.
I probably thought it in the same way that girls usually think about boys. What if I'm permanently stuck as a girl on the inside as well?
I'm told by trans-mask friends that these are common points of confusion as they all chart their own paths of self-understanding. Self-discovery is a forever process for all of us, but damned if a revision on the gender and sexuality label doesn't require a bit more of a convoluted voyage. What Woke Up does especially well is see this all from an adolescent point of view, where everything is confusing and solutions are messy. No, rushing into having sex to assert your or your partner's sexuality isn't the best course of action, but it's understandable instinct to go through. Actions speak louder than words after all. Thankfully, Fujimoto reins this in, and our hero realises that all he has to do is declare who he is and who he loves, and his girlfriend is happy to accept him as such. It's a really lovely ending. Trans people get so much shit just from trying to be who they truly are. To be trans or gender non-conforming is an incredible act to me because the world perceives them as A, yet they are able to go against that and tell them, no, I am B or C or D. I have looked beyond the surface of what you can see and perceive myself as something else. Even for non-trans readers, there's a lot to take away about not letting others' perception of you colour your own self-identity. Currently in Chainsaw Man, we are seemingly seeing the culmination of the internal conflict between Denji wanting a normal life and Denji wanting to be Chainsaw Man. He has long been told he must choose one or the other, but seems to have now reached a point of synthesis, merging these two separate identities into a cohesive whole. Admittedly, this is based on the last page of the latest chapter as of writing, so we'll see how this turns out. Goodbye Eri is slightly different, focusing less on how a person perceives themselves and more on the act of creating a legacy for others. Goodbye Eri is about the power the observer has in forming the perception of someone once they are no longer able to influence that themselves. This is shown with Yuta's mother wanting a documentary of her death to be filmed so she can manage her own legacy, and despite being quite a cruel person in reality, Yuta manages to paint her as a brave woman. He repeats this when Eri makes a similar request. He makes sure to never film her wearing her glasses or her retainer. Her relationship with Yuta is presented as romantic while it's actually purely platonic. Her personality is apparently greatly altered to be more friendly. We only learn this towards the end of the story and are forced to re-examine who we think Eri is and consider the daunting task of remembering people. I lost my own mum when I was 21. I have no videos of her, no recordings. I don't even remember my last words to her, let alone her last words to me. It's sad to admit that I can't even recall the sound of my mum's voice, and that's lost to time forever. All I can remember, and who knows how accurate this is, are the values she instilled in me of kindness, respect, and accepting others. I'm almost certain these are lessons she told me, but I have no proof of this, and I could just be putting rose-tinted glasses as I recall generic lessons of being nice to others. Still, I am who I am based partly on these unreliable memories and a perception of who I think my mum was, even if that wasn't really her. This is why how we remember others is important. Not only because it's how we show our love and respect for the person, but because it can greatly inform who we become as time goes on. Throughout his works, identity, perception, and self-discovery have been major and minor themes. Next to immortality and the acceptance of suffering as part of life, it's probably his most used motif, and even at its most tragic, it's one of the most sweet and caring things we get from him. Wherever you are, wherever you can, and whenever it's safe, please be yourself. It's the best you can be. Oh, okay, that was a slightly heavy ending, even if delivered with my robotic flatness. We've looked at ideas of romance, we've looked at victims of abuse trying to save each other, and we've looked at the power of perception and memory. Hopefully through these short little essays we can see the humanity that runs throughout the works of Fujimoto and understand the importance of treating each other with empathy and understanding. Stay safe, stay loved.